Benchmark, the voice of business. Presented by LMD.
On this edition of Benchmark, Sri Lanka's capital market is under the microscope, and we've invited the president of the Colombo Stockbrokers Association, Prashan Fernando, to join the discussion. Up next, LMD's columnist Hasta Premratna provides his perspective on investor sentiment and market performance. And in our final segment, Travis Gomez, product head for Frontier Research, tackles the thorny issue of tourists being subject to violence in recent weeks. That's the lineup for Benchmark.
Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Benchmark. I'm Savitri Rodrigo. Today we step into the capital markets landscape, and we have with us Prashan Fernando, who is the president of the Colombo Stockbrokers Association and also director and CEO of Acuity Stockbrokers, to give us his unique perspective and also some interesting insights on capital markets. So Prashan, welcome to Benchmark. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
As we are going to step into, as I said, the capital markets landscape, what is your broad assessment of how it is today?
We have about 300 companies listed, about in 20 sectors. We have foreign participation, which was at an all-time high in 2017. We had a little over 100 billion. About 18 billion of that was a net inflow. So 2017 closed up with one of the best years we have ever had, where foreign funds were concerned. Listed companies, of course, we have an issue here is liquidity. That is our biggest concern and the issue we have. We have liquidity issue. We don't have enough stocks for foreign funds to trade. We have a handful of companies that foreign funds are attracted to. So that's one of our key problems we face. And also currently we have an issue with government funds being out of the stock market. That's another huge concern. The EPF, ETF, NSB, the Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation, they have been out of the funds stock market for the last 2 years. So that signals bad for the retail investors. If our own people funds are not investing, it's very difficult for the retailers to move in.
So what is the reason for this lack of confidence internally?
That's the government funds for reasons of probes, various investigations that are going on with some investments they had made prior to in the previous regime time. So those investigations are going on and they're not concluded as yet. And after that, those fund managers are reluctant to trade because they are scared. I mean, no one wants to be hauled up and investigated and questioned.
Now, World Bank data in 2016 stated that stock market capitalization as a share of GDP was 23% for Sri Lanka, whereas for our markets that are competing with us, like 32.3% for Vietnam, Indonesia was 45.7%, and Malaysia a very high 121.3%. Now, how does the Sri Lankan market compare with other frontier and emerging markets?
Okay, now when you take the MSCI index for emerging markets, that's at a PER of 15 times, and frontier markets at 16 times. Whereas Sri Lanka, our PER ratio is at 11 times. So we are very attractive. So unfortunately, our investors here don't see it.
So how can capital markets propel Sri Lanka's economic growth?
So one thing is our local companies should take advantage of capital markets. They can leverage on raising capital and deleverage themselves from their balance sheets of external borrowings they have at the moment. So that's a big opportunity our local corporates should look at. And market valuations are low at the moment, so it is an attractive place for them to come in. So listing, and as well as government state-owned enterprises should get themselves listed. We have a good example where a government enterprise got listed, that is People's Leasing Company, a few years back. Government still retains about nearly 80% of the company. but it's doing very well. It's very sought after by foreign funds. Local investors love it. So that kind of example is already there. Mechanism is there.
Let me move on to the Inland Revenue Act. This was brought in to simplify the tax system, to create a more investor-friendly environment and attract foreign funds. The Act also includes a form of capital gains tax. What kind of impact is this Inland Revenue Act going to have on capital markets?
See, there is a misconception. A lot of people think there is a capital gains tax imposed on share trading. It is not. Share trading is one of the few asset classes that are exempt from capital gains. So this, in the budget, that was what was proposed. There is no capital gains on the stock market. So investors, of course, that communication never really went out clearly. I mean, we have been harping on it, but still, that's one area where people don't realize. Now, if you go into real estate or anything, now you have to pay capital gains. Stock market is totally out of it. Then the other area from the Inland Revenue Act is the threshold for income tax. Now it's taken to 100,000 rupees a month. So that's a 1.2 million, up to 1.2 million annually, you are not taxed. So there's potentially that amount of income that can come back into potentially into our market.
So what is your take on the SEC's newly introduced Capital Market Strategy 2020?
That's going ahead as envisaged. That the main components of that is the new SEC Act. That's, I believe, it's currently in Parliament. When Parliament meets, hopefully in May, that will be one of the items that will come up soon. Other one was the demutualization. That bill is also in Parliament. So that's also one of the key agendas. Other two on the SEC roadmap were the DVP, that's delivery versus payment, and the central counterparty. Both the processes are in progress. Even the industry has been spoken to. So those two are on stream.
So the whole idea is to enhance capital markets competitiveness, its resilience and its innovation. Do you see this happening?
Yes, with DVP and CCP coming in, or either what they can at least bring in one form, we have a settlement risk currently. That's one of the big concerns some of the bigger foreign funds are always worried about. See, currently your shares physically get transferred the day you do the transaction, and settlement comes 3 days later. Now with the delivery versus payments, the shares get transferred only when you get paid. So that systematic risk is taken out. So we have been managing thus far, but with big funds moving in, they are concerned of those things. So once we get that hurdle also out of the way, we'll be in a good position.
We will be back after a commercial break to discuss capital markets with you, Prashan. To stay with us. A commercial break, and Prashan Fernando will be back giving us a little more insights on the challenges that are facing capital markets, as well as some of the market opportunities that Sri Lanka can take advantage of. Stay with us.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
LMD is making waves, airwaves. The next big thing from Sri Lanka's pioneering business journal. LMD podcast now online. Listen to our articles on the go at www.lmd.lk. Select, play, listen. It's that simple.
1,500 done. 1,500 go. Hoorah!
What on earth are you doing?
I'm making money.
You're crazy.
Crazy for money. 10,000 steps done. Who the man? I do it every single day. Show me the money.
So you run 10,000 steps every day, huh? You must be fit.
Some days I do 20,000. Hoorah!
So you're back with Benchmark, the Big Picture Business Program, and we are chatting about capital markets with Prashan Fernando, the President of the Colombo Stockbrokers Association and Director and CEO of Acuity Stockbrokers. So what are the challenges associated with capital markets?
As I mentioned earlier, the liquidity. So that's really stifling. Whenever we do go road shows, they're saying you will have one or two stocks we can look at. There's nothing else. What do you all want us to do? So that keeps coming back to us, haunting us year on year. So we appealed to the government. We have given papers to the government asking them to bring in some SOEs out. We are not asking to privatize. That's not the word. It's to list them. It's benefit for their employees as well.
Prashant, which sectors or which SOEs do you see promise in?
Promising would be the banks, insurance, even, of course, we can turn around the utility companies. In every other country, utility companies, these things are all listed. So they can get out of the debt trap they are in easily.
In your opinion, what are some of the market opportunities that Sri Lanka can take advantage of?
I suppose the DVP, SS, CCPP that I mentioned, those are we have still not. We are trying to finish with that. Technology-wise, we are reasonably all right, but still I think we are still lagging behind other countries in that aspect, in the sense of internet trading. I mean, a lot more people in other emerging markets, they are online. Housewives do trading. Now here we don't see that. In Thailand, in Malaysia, lots of housewives do share trading during the daytime. That's what they do. So now here we have not still come to that kind of.
So is it a lack of education, a lack of awareness maybe?
Lack of market knowledge, yes. I think again this has to come into the curriculum at a younger age, and people have to be brought in and understand what are the benefits of this.
How can Sri Lanka boost its capital markets through partnerships?
We are looking at currently working on with two countries. That's with South Korea. There is hopefully a line of credit we are trying to work with on the infrastructure, IT infrastructure. So with South Korea and with India, recently the stock exchange signed up with the National Stock Exchange of India. There we are trying to see whether we can get technical know-how as to other products. Now India has, apart from equity, they have a whole host of derivative products, short selling, forward contracts, swaps. So we are trying to see how we can go use their knowledge and how they have done those, and see how we can introduce some of those things to our market, especially after the new act comes in. It will permit these products in our market as well.
So we've got 8 months left in 2018. In that time, what is your outlook for capital markets in Sri Lanka?
We are positive. Forward earnings PR for Sri Lanka is about 9.6 times. So we expect market momentum now that politically, hopefully most of the political upheaval has calmed now. So we can see going forward, we see a positive trend going forward.
Thank you so much, Prashant, for joining us. We've had a very insightful discussion on capital markets. Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
So that was Prashan Fernando, the President of the Colombo Stockbrokers Association and Director and CEO of Acuity Stockbrokers, discussing the capital markets landscape in Sri Lanka. On the other side, we have Anushan Selvaraja.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
LMD is making waves, airwaves. The next big thing from Sri Lanka's pioneering business journal, LMD Podcast, now online. Listen to our articles on the go at www.lmd.lk. Select, play, listen. It's that simple.
$8,500 done. 1,500 to go. Hoorah!
What on earth are you doing?
I'm making money.
You're crazy.
Crazy for money. 10,000 steps done. Who the man? I do it every single day. Show me the money.
So you run 10,000 steps every day, huh? You must be fit.
Some days I do 20,000. Hoorah!
Welcome back to Benchmark. I'm Prashan Fernando. Now for a closer look at the latest on the boards. Joining me is market analyst and LMD columnist Hassan Prashan. Welcome back to the show, Hassan. Now, just to start off as usual, how is the bourse performing at this point of time?
Yeah, the market has been somewhat flat. There have been marginal movements around 6,500 points range in our share price index, but other than that, relatively flat movement. We've seen some fluctuation in the last few days, but mostly the blue chip counters have stayed in the same levels. Also, the equity levels have been relatively low, especially given that it was out to holiday season. Things have been relatively slow, and also the current political situation in the country have kept some of the investors on a more wait and see mode, especially looking ahead of what's coming up from policy and future of the government point of view. Of course, when you look at it from a activity perspective, the foreign activity has still been relatively encouraging compared to the local activity, and that momentum on foreign participation has also been continuing.
Now there's been a bit of volatility with our currency. What can we expect going forward?
I think mainly the markets have been a little bit jittery given that the type of political scenario we are in, whether there will be any change in the current policy framework which can have an impact on the overall currency, especially from a rupee movement perspective. So I think the main thing is that the exports have seen growth, the imports have not seen any abnormal growth. So from trade deficit point of view, things look to be pretty much in shape. And then when you look at it from the remittances, foreign remittances and the tourism earnings, both have again been on somewhat stable. So in that light, I think overall, when you look at the currency from a fundamental perspective, things seem to be relatively on track, and that nothing much has changed. Again, the FDIs have been coming into the country, and we've seen a lot of Chinese investments coming in. Debt repayments are planned, and there are a couple of sovereign bonds and sovereign funding that's also being planned, which will bring dollars into the government coffers. So fundamentally, I don't see a major change, though there have been a depreciation in the last few months, mainly driven by the market sentiment, which has been pushed by, of course, the situation in the political arena.
What is being said amongst the contemporaries even about what we can expect moving forward now with all this political uncertainty?
Yeah, the key thing is, I think, again, continuity of the policy framework, which boils down to the political uncertainty that we are in today, because the government's the continuation, whether it will be a unity government or whether it will be a UNP government or whether there will be a SLP government, which is not very clear at the moment. There is a lot of debate and arguments going on. The way it looks like, we still seem to have about a good 18 months of time for this government to complete its office, which should give enough time for certain policy decisions and frameworks to be completed. Now, if that completes and if that certainty is being seen, by the investors, I think things will start again moving in a more positive note. But having said that, if it doesn't and if it shows a more fluffy environment, obviously we can expect things to be somewhat scattered, and then naturally that could lead to more volatility in the market and less activity. Hopefully the foreigners will continue to stay on and look at the market positively. We've seen a lot of interest still continuing in good blue chip companies who are currently doing quite well. The currency depreciation will also give an indication that the foreigners will get better value for their dollars if they come now, and that might also be a reason why they should renew their interest to buy.
Thank you very much for joining us, Hasita.
Thank you.
That was market analyst and LMD columnist Hasita Premaratne. We'll be right back after a short commercial break. Stay tuned.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
LMD is making waves, airwaves. The next big thing from Sri Lanka's pioneering business journal. LMD podcast now online. Listen to our articles on the go at www.lmd.lk. Select, play, listen. It's that simple.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Anshin Selvaraj. Now we're going to take a look at the tourism sector, and joining me is product head from Frontier Research, Travis Gomez. Welcome back to the show, Travis. Now, to start off, how is the tourism industry faring right now?
Yeah, so if you take, there has been a few issues, I think, recently with regard to, because of weather-related disruptions, as well as the situation that was taking Kandy, there were some issues, but overall, if you take the first 3 months, it's been fairly a good year in terms of like the tourism earnings has picked up, and actually even the government has revised their target. So in the last year we did not like achieve the target that we wanted, but this year they're feeling much more optimistic, and they've actually revised up their target. They're targeting like about 3 million tourists by the end of this year. So overall it's been fairly a good start that's been happening, but more recently, as you probably know, there's been some incidences which is calling into question.
Now, Travis, last month we spoke about our tourism industry getting a bad name because of the scams that are being put on our tourists from our own people. Now this time we have an even more serious issue of assaults against tourists in Mirsa and Midigama now. What sort of impact is this having on our tourism industry?
Yeah, so when it comes to the tourists, when it comes to the formal, the hotel association and all, I think they are sort of like using this as a sort of like an argument that you need more control over the sort of the informal sector, which is the sector that has been really booming when it comes to tourism, particularly in the down south as well. So because of that, I think the government is also stepping up its measures to sort of make sure that there are some of these like measures are in place, like some of the things that were proposed in the last budget, that is to introduce basically a licensing system for these informal establishments, as well as to make sure that like all these health and safety standards are met. But at the same time, I think we need to be a bit careful not to rush into this and kind of like to squander that growth that has been happening, because in a way that's a very positive thing, because tourism, I feel, is a sector where a lot of these growth, a lot of the positive benefits from this can trickle down to a whole sector of the different sectors in society, and it can lead to much more broad-based growth, not just concentrated in Colombo and in the Western Province. So because of that, I would say you have to be a bit careful, but you need regulation, but it has to be done in a system.
Now the Coast Conservation Department has said that they're going to tear down these illegal constructions on the coast, but there are some government ministers who are vehemently against it. But is that the right thing to do? Do we destroy a livelihood, or do we bring in more regulation? What is the path that we should be following?
So I think you need to have a balance between both. So I think, you can't have like these constructions that are not safe, or that are in a very haphazard manner, because overall it might destroy the entire environment in a particular area. So as a result, the attractiveness of a particular area might also be affected. So for example, if you take like a heritage type of area like Golfwood, if you have all sorts of different types of shops and different things that are that entirely change the sort of atmosphere there, then that's not a positive thing. So, but at the same time, you need to allow people to take advantage, and to people living in that area especially to benefit from this tourism, the boom that is happening. So you kind of have to strike a balance between them.
Finally, Travis, in tourism in Sri Lanka, does a tourist get value for money when they come here?
Yeah, I think definitely it's not the case, because if you take the sort of the room rates that are charged, so particularly in Colombo with even the 4-star or the 5-star hotels, given that you also have this minimum price that they are subject to, I definitely don't feel that it's in line with the sort of quality that you would expect given the price that you're paying for it. So I think that's an area that we need to really look at.
Thank you very much for joining us, Travis.
Okay, thank you.
That was Product Head of Frontier Research, Travis Gomez. Thank you for watching Benchmark, and we hope to see you again next time.